Welcome to the Josh Bolton Show, where we dive into interesting and inspiring conversations. And now, your host, Josh Bolton.
Sure. So thank you, Josh, firstly, for having me on your podcast. I'm very honored to be here because I love chatting with other podcast hosts. But for those who I have not met yet, my name is Ashley Mason, and I am the owner of the marketing agency Dash of Social, which is based in Massachusetts. And we specialize in content marketing for small to medium-sized businesses and tech startups. So we primarily support them with their social media, email marketing, and blogging strategies, and really consider ourselves to be their integrated marketing partners.
And honestly, as I've looked at your website and like the stuff you've done, you truly are a titan within your own field too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So we were talking earlier, and so I mentioned to her that blogging, I believe, is kind of like a dying trend, but I like I was mentioning, I kind of have dyslexia and words jump everywhere, so I don't know what to do. But she was telling me that she actually believes it's much stronger. Can you also tell them why?
Absolutely. So I view blogging as a few different benefits. So one being it drives website traffic. So if you publish a blog post on your website about any topic that relates to your zone of genius, and then you promote that blog post through social media, through your email list, through just sending it out to friends and family, whatever it might be, when people click on that link, it obviously brings them back to your website. And once people are on your website, the whole goal is that after they read that blog post, they'll then kind of click around and see who you are, what you do, what services you offer, so on and so forth. Kind of reeling them in, I guess, is the best way to describe it. I also think
Yeah.
along with that, blogging helps with thought leadership. So when you're posting or writing a blog post on a certain topic, you're hopefully an authority, have an authoritative voice in that expertise or whatever it might be, or that topic. And so you're kind of able to position yourself as an expert when you're writing about a certain subject or anything like that. And so when you're just able to write and publish this long form content, it helps to therefore demonstrate the experience that you have and also help to prove your credibility to anyone who's reading it.
That's a good point. Yeah, I'm gonna say there's a few times I've listened to audiobooks. I didn't know anything about the person. I'm like, well, they wrote a book slash read a book. Like there must be an authority in it. And then I get halfway through, I'm like, they have no idea what they're talking about.
I know, right?
But so for the blogging specifically, so is there a certain writing style or theme or structuring of the actual blog that you've noticed converts well, or like it's more desirable, like the two paragraphs max, or is it like a long, detailed but spaced out kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say I like to aim for a minimum of 500 words, but I think length can really vary depending on what it is you're writing about. I mean, you don't want to force yourself to try to write a bunch of words if you don't really have much to say on the topic, but you also want to make sure that you're giving enough information that someone's actually learning something. You don't want to kind of cut it too short. So I would say focus on at least 500 words for length, but then in terms of like the actual format of the blog, I always like to veer more towards like the tutorials or how to's or like step by step type of content that kind of educates or explains something to someone or explains it to the reader. And then I always like to make sure that there's readability incorporated within that. So by that meaning like you're using the headers and having different sections to break it up really nicely and organize it. You're using bullet points when it makes sense if you have lists, so that way it's easier to read. Also making sure that you're hyperlinking within the blog post to other pages on your website that might be relevant, or other resources that aren't on your website, but that might be a trusted source that people can click through. And always including some type of call to action at the end where people can reach out to you directly if they want to learn more. So the whole point of a blog post is you want to give someone a bunch of information that's helpful. And then at the end, you can say something like, if you're looking for support with this, reach out to me, and kind of link to your contact page or whatever it is that you'd like to derive people to.
Okay. It's kind of what I was thinking, but I'm not the expert in writing blog posts. That's where my, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. And I think with blogging too, you don't have to go overboard. So if you want to do just one blog post per month, that's sufficient. I don't think you need to try to stretch yourself too thin, producing too many blogs at once.
Yeah, like if you listen to someone like the millionaire blogger, he's like buy his AI automation thing and just like pump out like 3 to 5 blog posts a day and see which one works. And I'm like, Sounds like a lot of work.
Exactly. And so that brings me to something that you had mentioned earlier, Josh, but you want to meet your target audience where they are. So if your target audience isn't reading blog posts to consume content, then you don't want to spend all this time and energy and effort writing and publishing blog posts if they're not even going to read it. So it's important for you to do the research to see where your target market is hanging out and then be able to make sure that you're building a presence in those different channels and platforms to reach them.
Yeah, no, definitely. For me, it a lot of it I get it through. It's funny, I'm a podcaster, but I don't really listen to podcasts. I more listen to audiobooks. Um, I think for me, I get annoyed with the tangents where they just like, oh, they start talking and they go about their grandma and then their kids and then this terrible trip. And it's like, where the hell were you going with that? With an audiobook, it's very concise, it's very organized. I could just play a chapter and I'm good for the day. And I think
Hmm.
that's very relevant. Yeah, because like if I was to try to categorize myself, I would say you need to create audiobooks or like really good YouTube videos. I like that. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
So for you were mentioning earlier too, um, I don't really use social media because my fear of missing out kicks in hard and I can doom scroll for hours. Um, then I sit here and I'm like, man, I had a whole plan for the day. I watched just YouTube shorts. But how does someone approach social media? Should they, when they have something like me, where should they get like maybe a third party scheduler or just learn to suck it up and download the app and do it themselves kind of thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it depends. I will always recommend batch producing and batch creating. So, meaning if you're
Okay.
managing your own social media, I would recommend being able to like dedicate 1 hour per day or maybe a few hours each week to actually just plan your social media content in advance. Being able to write your posts, being able to pull together the visual that you want to go with that, and then scheduling it all out through, like you said, a social media scheduler. So that way everything's kind of on autopilot from there and it's
Hmm.
ultimately out of sight, out of mind. I think it's easier to be able to plan things in advance or kind of do like a few weeks of content at once compared to trying to do it in the moment. Because what I see oftentimes with any type of creator or business owner is that when they try to post day by day, it very quickly and very easily leads to them not posting at all for several weeks or several months because they understandably just get busy with life and what's going on in their careers and business, whatever it might be. So
Hmm.
being able to kind of dedicate some time to doing that will ensure that you're able to maintain your consistency.
Okay. Is there any scheduling apps or platforms you recommend?
I usually refer people to using something like Hootsuite or Buffer is good. Those are typically meant for what I'd say maybe like an individual person. I use a different social media scheduler because since I own an agency, it's more so meant for agencies, multiple accounts that they're managing. But Later is another one that people tend to use a lot. Planoly is also pretty popular. So I would say a lot of these, or at least most of them, have a free option or at least a free trial. So it's kind of nice to be able to just sign up for maybe a handful of them and test them out and see which one you like the best and which one suits the needs that you're looking for.
Okay. Sounds good. There's a few apps I've been watching on AppSumo for scheduling, and I think their big agency plan though they're wanting like 200 up front. I'm like, you're so new though. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't want to kind of spend the money if it's not something that will support you in the long run.
Yeah, there was one I signed up for called GetMarky.ai, and I noticed the owner in his own comments is like, yeah, I don't know if I can sustain paying for ChatGPT like unlimited. And I just after I bought it, I'm like, I'm gonna get my refund kind of
Yeah. You're like,
thing.
that's concerning.
That's if you're openly saying on a forum, I don't know if I can afford this bill.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm just been sitting here. I'm like, what do I do? The biggest one for me, however, he did his Instagram for scheduling. I am now completely locked out of my account. That's
Oh,
a real
no.
and Meta thinks I'm some Lithuanian hacker. So they're
Oh,
not giving it.
geez.
I'll go through the process, reset everything, and then they're like, yeah, no, sorry, wrong person. Do it again. It's just a loop.
That's
So
frustrating.
so I'm like, did I just lose my account? That sucks.
Yeah. Right. I know. Unfortunately, it's too common these days, I feel like.
Yeah. So do you do also a type of PR for your customers? Or is that a little too out of your
I'd say out of my wheelhouse. So typically for that, I have a few different great referral partners that I will typically send clients to if they come to us looking for those services. I have a few handful of people that I can trust to offer that I know will deliver quality work and follow through on their on what they promise. So I like to typically just have people that I recommend for that, as well as other marketing services too. I mean, we don't do any type of graphic design or web design and development, paid ads. We don't do there's like a bunch of services that aren't what we offer. And so it's really nice to have other people in the industry that you can send business to and who will be able to support your clients and really prioritize them the way that they should be prioritized.
did you try to do that before and that's why you decided not to?
It's
Or it's
funny that
just
you mentioned that. Yeah, because I feel like so I started Dash Social in 2016. So we just celebrated our 8-year anniversary 2 months ago.
congrats?
Thank you. And I feel like when I first started, I tried to offer every service under the sun because I'd have clients coming to me looking for services that we weren't offering at that time. And I was referring business out. And I was like, well, one day I was like, well, this is kind of silly. Instead of sending business elsewhere, why don't I try to offer it? And so I tried to become more of like a full service agency, but I realized that it's really difficult to successfully manage an agency that offers a dozen or so different services. And there was also so many services within that I just genuinely didn't enjoy. So I realized throughout probably at least the past 5 years, if not longer than that, the services that we really are good at and that I really enjoy are the social media, blog content, and email marketing. And I kind of realized that being able to focus on what you enjoy and what you're good at will help you to be successful rather than trying to offer everything. Know what you're good at, know what you can deliver, and then kind of forget about the rest. And so that's been really helpful to just kind of, I guess, niche down is really what I'm talking about here. Being able to niche down and focus on what I know I can do really well.
No, that's very important. That there's a few of my friends who have tried to build their own business and like, oh, we'll just do everything, and I'll check in a couple like months later. I'm like, how you doing? They're like, terrible. Why? I can't do this. But that's
Yeah,
what I told them.
it's hard.
I'm like, you're really good at X, Y, and Z. Just do that. They're like, but it doesn't pay that well. I'm like, but if you become like a well-known person, it doesn't matter. Everyone will just come to you.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, it's nice to just kind of know what you're good at and not try to do everything.
Exactly. So I am curious, for your email marketing, what specifically are, I guess, some like the call to actions on the blog, but is there a certain sequence you do to filter them and stuff like that? I hope you get the question.
Do you mean so getting people onto your email list? Is that what you're
Yeah,
referring to?
yes, yes.
Perfect. So there's a few different ways. I would say the biggest and easiest way to do so is to offer what's called a lead magnet. So, for anyone who's not familiar with that, a lead magnet is a free resource that you'll typically put on your website, and you'll have some type of call to action on your website that says, if you're interested in getting access to this free ebook on how to do email marketing, enter your
Mm,
name and email address and you'll get it sent to you. And so pretty much every website I feel like has some type of call to action in that sense, whether they offer a free resource or if you're a product company, a lot of those will offer like a coupon code in exchange for joining their email list. But you'll see that typically as like a pop-up on your website or embedded in like the what's called the hero of your homepage, kind of like in that top fold. And so by being able to offer that, it's a win-win situation. You're providing any of your website visitors with free and valuable information because you're created this resource on a specific topic. But in exchange, you're getting their email address. And so when they're automatically added to your email list, now you're able to continue to market to them through newsletters or whatever it might be that you're using your email list for.
okay. So what's a good lead magnet that you've noticed that has good conversion rate? Is it like a free pamphlet, a free book, like stuff like that?
I would say it depends. I've seen a few that have done well have been kind of like a video series. So maybe like a 3-day video series that will kind of get dripped out throughout the course of 3 days. I personally have some type of like playbook, it's called. So it's basically like a really long white paper ultimately that talks about how to build your marketing strategy. A lot of people will do like a free webinar that can do it. So I guess it really just depends, kind of going back to our conversation earlier, thinking about who your ideal client or ideal customer is, thinking about how they like to consume content and what type of content they like to consume, and then being able to create something that aligns with that.
I mean, that in alone right there, I've had multiple people come on just specifically from avatar creation and how to reach them. Is there a method for you though, for your email marketing and blogging that when you convey to your customers, like, hey, if you're wanting to reach X client, we need to talk this way. I know you want this way, but this one's better. Is there a formula you have for that?
Yeah, so for email marketing specifically, I will always recommend that you segment your email list. So for anyone who's listening who isn't familiar with what that is, segmenting your email list basically means if you have this whole group of subscribers, you actually want to be able to narrow them down into different subcategories ultimately. So if you have a
Okay.
whole group of subscribers, you could have one subcategory of those people who say that they're clients. You could have one subcategory of those people who are maybe referral partners. You just want to get more specific so that way you can actually get more targeted with the types of newsletters that you send, and you can send custom and more personalized ones to those specific groups of people.
Okay. Um, so let's say within the one you gave, like client, referral, and lead magnet kind of buckets, just for simplicity, what would be the difference in the lead bucket email versus the referral versus the client email? Is there like
So
the what?
the
Sorry, you go.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, so the difference is that client versus referral partner. We'll talk about those. So a client is someone who is actually a client of your business. So they've given you their money, you're performing some type of service for them, or they've purchased some type of product from you. A referral partner would be identified as someone who isn't a client or customer, but they send you business. So, for example, my types of referral partners would be PR firms because they typically send clients to me, or they might be web designers who send clients to me. So, they're not hiring me directly, but they are sending me business. So, if I have these two subcategories within my email list, I can craft emails that are specifically meant to my clients that's talking about maybe a new service that I'm offering. But then I can also send in a separate email just to my referral partners that maybe say to them, hey, thank you for being a valued referral partner of Dash of Social. We're actively accepting new clients. Like, would love to hear if you have anyone in mind for us to work with. So you can just be able to tailor your content a little bit more.
Okay, so for like the referral partner, it's still professional, but more laid back and easygoing compared to a customer. You got to be a little more polished. And okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because you're just it's more for the referral partner. It's just like talking to acquaintance, like, hey, I'm taking clients again if you want to send some to me.
Exactly.
Is there anything since 2016, the trends you've noticed um that have changed throughout time, but also I guess also some of the old ones coming back too?
Yeah, so I would say things that have changed throughout time. I feel like when I first started, it was the expectations were that you'd keep like your business and your personal content completely separate. So people would always say like you can't talk about anything personal on your business social media profiles, and it was very very distinct and separate from one another. But I feel like over the past probably 4 or so years, I feel like those lines have become blurred. So people on their business profiles are talking about exciting life milestones of like getting married or having a baby or anything like that. And I feel like content has become a lot more humanized, is what I call it. So basically like
Hmm.
human centric content. And that's important because you're giving an inside look into the people that you're going to be working with from that business. And ultimately, people do business with people. So once you start to learn more about who someone is as a person and you get a feel for their personality, that's when you start to like them. Once you start to like them, you start to trust them. And once you start to trust them, then you are able to like basically want to purchase from them or give them your money. So it's really important to kind of build that rapport ultimately. And I only see that continuing to grow moving forward as focusing on the human people behind it.
Oh, absolutely. Like earlier today with my job, I do like I clean pools on it's my main job. Then I do podcasting on the side, and I bumped into one of the employees, and I was talking to him, and he's like, yeah, I noticed your truck was out in front of the customer's house a long time. I'm like, yeah. he's a lonely client. I'm like the only person that talks to him in the whole week, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I told him like the thing about service business that no one talks about is you kind of become an indirect therapist, friend, and confidant. And I'm like you don't realize how much of a responsibility it is. And he's like, man, that sucks. I don't want to do it. I'm like, whoa, okay.
I
I'll
know,
see
I
how.
feel like you get the most successful, as you said, like business relationships when you actually take the time to know someone and like know who they are as a person. And that's how you build that trust with them. And that's when they feel like they can really want to maintain that relationship, which is good for you in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Like the same employee, he was telling me, he's like, yeah, he's like, your route, there's always things going wrong. He's like, and all the customers talk to you. He's like, I don't have time for that. I'm like, that's why I do my route the way I do. And I said, that's also why everyone gives the boss man like Josh is amazing. Because I'm like, I take the time to get to know them. I said, there's one client, she always tells me about her grandson who does hockey. I don't know anything about hockey when she was first telling me. So I actually started watching YouTube videos. I'm like, oh, that's that. Okay, okay, okay. Now I get it. So
Yeah.
then when I talked to her next week, she's like, oh, wow, you actually know. I'm like, I like binge watch YouTube. So let's ignore that part. But that's where I told him, I said, because I always read audiobooks when I'm
Hmm.
working. I told him, I said, there's a reason why I listen to self-help to, I said, it sounds silly, but a lot of therapy books or ways to talk to people because I said, I don't know what they went through or how they experienced it, but I can learn to understand it to be a better listener. So I maybe, and that's where I'm like, what threw him off. I'm like, have you noticed I actually haven't really talked to this much? And he's like, wait a minute, how did you do that? I'm like, because I'm a good listener.
I love that.
And that's where I told him, I said, that's the thing with service. Like any service business, even if it's online, you gotta make time to understand your customer too. Um, do you have like an onboarding process and then like this is more just on the side, not the actual email or social media. Do you have like an onboarding process? And on your own, do you have like a CRM or whatever that like keeps track of everything for your customers?
Yes. So when a client begins working with us, we go through a really robust onboarding process where it typically starts with sending them an intake questionnaire to understand their business, who their target market is, who their competitors are, what their goals are for social media, all of the really important information we kind of need to know to have that background on them. And then using that information plus our additional research and ideas will then build out their marketing strategies. So being able to identify their content pillars, their growth strategies, do an audit of what they've done up to date, conduct a competitor analysis, really be able to kind of outline the blueprint or plan for what we can do moving forward. And that really kind of helps to ensure that we stay on track and are strategic with what we do and intentional with what we do. So that's really what we follow from there. In terms of a CRM, I would say it's more of like a project management system, but I really love Asana and have used that for most of the time that I've had my business. I've switched between a few, but Asana has been the one that I've really, really loved. And it's really helpful for being able to keep track of client projects, tasks that need to be done, due dates. Since I have a team, being able to kind of get a feel for like what their progress on work is and really being able to ensure that everything's in
How do you spell that one again?
Asana. So it's Asana.
I just want to look that up while we're doing this.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So like I've heard Mondays are really good, like project management one too. Is that one
Mhm.
you would recommend too?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more, I don't know if complex is the right word. I think sometimes it has a little bit more features than like just one person might need. I think as Monday is more so meant for teams, people who might have like
Mm,
multiple people kind of involved, but Asana is a good one for maybe like a solo person who needs something, or Trello is pretty popular as well.
okay. That's really good. Thank you.
Of
Um,
course.
is there anything else in particular that I may have not asked that you want to talk about?
I would say to review your analytics. That is something that's really important when it comes to marketing. I think a lot of times people throw spaghetti at the wall and hope that it sticks, or they're more so just kind of doing something and not even really understanding why they're doing it or how it's performing. And so I will always recommend viewing your analytics to see what's driving the most engagement, what's performing really well on the opposite end, what might not really be performing so well, so that you can use that information and that data moving forward to plan your content and ensure that you're really only producing work that is actually going to align with your target audience. So definitely review your numbers and kind of make some decisions from there rather than kind of going at it blindly almost and just doing it just to do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there a guideline though? Because like I could post a blog, but if I immediately check it in like 2 minutes, it's not gonna reflect. Is there a timeline you also recommend for your clients? Like, hey, check it every 3 days to a week kind of thing?
Yeah, so I will always recommend a minimum of 30 days. You want to give yourself at least
Oh,
a 30-day window because it does take some time for things to play out. And I explain it like this. I previously had clients who were kind of looking at like a 1 week window, and that's truly not enough data. It's kind of like the same analogy where if someone's trying to lose weight and maybe 1 week they gain a few pounds. Well, instead of them saying, "Oh, that's it. It's clearly not working. I'm giving up." If they were to look at the whole 30 days, but see that they actually did lose weight, it's kind of like that net loss. Well, now you have more data to work with. So looking at just that 1 week is too short of a timeline to kind of make any, I don't want to say rash decisions, but make any decisions and kind of view that to be the absolute truth. I think you need to give yourself a much bigger timeline and then see how it really plays out throughout time and not just kind of call it quits or think that you have the right answer when there's only not been that much time going by.
fair enough. I was actually impressed. A lot of people have always told me they're like, oh, 3 days to a week max on anything you do. I'm like, seems a little short, but okay.
Yeah,
No,
especially because different times of year also have different they also kind of affect how content performs. Like for example, when the election happened 2 weeks ago, I mean a lot of content didn't get as much engagement or reach during that time because of course everyone's posting about the election. And then also too during the holiday season when businesses are spending so much money on ads, the organic posts aren't really getting much reach because Meta or whatever platform is prioritizing the advertisers and the people who are spending money. And also too, like during the summer when people are typically on vacation or not at their computer, not working, they're not looking at social media. So content isn't going to perform as well then either. So it's important to know that it's seasonal. And that's why it's important to give yourself more of a time frame to make the right call.
no, absolutely. That's the one thing. After doing this almost 3 years, I was because my father got into podcasting because of me, and I told him, like, dude, I don't know what it is, especially being like more business fall, but not winter, in the beginning of the year. I get a ton of engagement. And I'm like, and then it's just gone.
Exactly. So it's because you're looking at your analytics, you've picked up on that. And now you
Mhm.
know moving forward.
Right. And that's where I told him, like, yeah, if we're doing it based off that, I'm like, that's gonna be hard to sustain it for a full-time gig. But yeah, honestly, this has been truly insightful and refreshing. Thank you for your insights.
Thank you for having me, Josh. I appreciate it.
Is there anywhere they can reach you at that you other than the Dash Social?
Yeah, so you can go to my website, Dash of Social. I'm also active on LinkedIn. So you can search my name, Ashley Mason. You can find me from there. And then, of course, once you go to the Dash of Social website, I have links to all my social media profiles in the footer, I believe, of my site. So you can click through and follow and say hi.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Josh.
Well, congratulations. You made it to the end. You're a awesome person. Not many make it here. So, being the awesome person that you are, can you do me one more awesome favor? Can you rate and review this on whatever podcast services you're using? If you do it on Apple and you leave an actual written review, I have a thing on my website. I will take your written review and post it for all to see. Congratulations, you're permanently sealed on my site. Otherwise, I am trying to do YouTube more and live streaming. I will try to put as many of the YouTube links in the description of the show as I can. So give your boy some extra help over on YouTube. Watch my videos. I just mute it and change the channel, change the window or something. But yeah, that's it. Thank you for being awesome and see you next time.